Okay, let's dive right in. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're embarking on an incredible geographical journey exploring Japan's longest river. We're going to trace a waterway that doesn't just cut through a landscape, it's literally shaped the history, the culture, and the everyday life of central Japan. You really have to think of this river as a silent, incredibly patient storyteller. Picture this. Way up high in the mountains of central Japan, surrounded by centuries-old forests, the harsh winter snow begins to melt with the spring thaw. A single, freezing snowflake transforms into just one tiny drop of water. It trickles past moss-covered rocks, gathers under the roots of ancient trees, and slowly, almost entirely unseen, these isolated little drops find each other. They join forces to become something so much bigger. To actually wrap your head around the sheer scale here, we've got to talk elevation, 2,400 meters above sea level. That's where the source is, right near the peak of Mount Kabushi. Up at this staggering height, these patient little streams start their monumental work. Honestly, you could just step right over them at this stage, but rivers are nothing if not patient. Over centuries, these humble streams carve deep valleys right out of solid rock, literally reshaping the mountains themselves. Long before humans built roads or established villages, the water was already here, acting as the region's very first traveler. And man, that traveler has a really long way to go. 367 kilometers to be exact. Every single drop that survives evaporation and groundwater seepage kicks off a trip that might take weeks to finish. It builds this massive momentum, rushing down from the peaks, descending all the way to the Sea of Japan. And just think, all of that immense accumulated strength started with those tiny little drops at the summit. So here's a question for you. To the people of Nagano, the upper reaches of this massive waterway have always been known by a very specific, ancient name, the Chikuma. But why Chikuma? What does that actually mean? It's something that has fascinated historians for a long time, and the origins are surprisingly mysterious. Now, what's really interesting here is that we have two main historical theories behind this thousand-year-old name. The first one suggests it comes from how the river physically behaves, its countless twists and meanders. You see, instead of just rushing straight downhill like a lot of steep mountain rivers, the Chikuma twists and turns all over these broad valleys, constantly shifting its course. The second theory? Well, it connects the name to ancient words describing flowing water or exceptionally fertile lands. Whichever one is true, when you look at those lush valleys today, you can absolutely see why the name has stuck around for over a millennium. Section 1. The river that built Shinshu. Back in the day, rivers were essentially the original highways. And since it provided incredibly fertile soil, travelers moving through Shinshu just naturally followed the river valley. This water was basically the lifeblood for massive rice fields and the orchards that give us those famous Nagano apples today. Along these natural routes, you had merchants hauling heavy loads of silk, salt, sake, and timber. You had pilgrims walking the banks on long spiritual treks towards Zenmoji Temple. And because of all this constant human movement, post towns sprang up. Places like the beautifully preserved Unojuku gave weary travelers and their horses a spot to rest, trade goods, and swap stories. Their entire existence was totally synced to the rhythm of the river. Section 2. A river between warring lords. All right. Things take a dramatic turn during the violent Sengoku period. This peaceful water suddenly became a fiercely contested strategic choke point. Whoever controlled these river valleys essentially controlled the vital routes connecting eastern and western Japan. The water became a natural barrier, separating massive rival samurai armies. We're talking about one of the most legendary rivalries in Japanese military history, the Battles of Kawanakajima. Between 1553 and 1564, these two brilliant warlords, Takeda Shingen and Uesugi Kenshin, clashed here 5 separate times. And the river's geography totally dictated their tactics. It decided where armies could march and severely restricted where cavalry could even charge. This era even gave us this crazy, legendary moment where Kenshin supposedly rode straight into Shingen's command post, swinging a sword, while Shingen defended himself with, of all things, an iron war fan. Seriously, talk about bringing the wrong weapon to a sword fight. But all this high-stakes drama played out exactly the way it did because both armies were constantly having to maneuver around the water. But even after the chaos of war, the river always settles back into its quiet, eternal rhythm. For over 1,000 years, it's been the ultimate muse for artists and poets. Take the famous writer Shimazaki Tosan. He immortalized these waters in his essay collection, Chikamagawa no Sketch. He wasn't writing about samurai or epic historical events. He captured the everyday, seasonal life. the delicate cherry blossoms floating by like tiny boats in the spring, the vibrant summer festivals with fishermen catching sweetfish or ayu in the sparkling water, the autumn mists rolling over mountains ablaze with crimson leaves, and finally, the quiet, muffling snow of winter. It's just this endless, moving canvas of everyday beauty. Section 3. Power, Floods, and Resilience. We do have to recognize, though, that a river giving life with such abundance can in a matter of hours become an uncontrollable and devastating force. Beauty and immense destructive power really do flow right alongside each other. Back in 2019, Typhoon Hagibis dumped record-breaking rainfall across central Japan. This gentle stream turned into a roaring torrent, bursting its banks and causing severe flooding right in Nagano City. Entire homes were inundated, and the Hokuriku Shinkansen train depot was completely flooded, which severely damaged numerous high-speed train sets. So the absolute crucial takeaway here is this. Even with all our modern engineering, the massive dams, the reinforced levees, the high-tech weather forecasting, humanity literally cannot fully control nature. Having a deep respect for the river's power is absolutely essential for survival. Let's move along and see how this builds, because as the water flows out of Nagano Prefecture and crosses the border into Niigata Prefecture, there's this fascinating geographical quirk. The water doesn't change, the current remains exactly the same, but the name completely changes. Up in Nagano, it's the Chikuma River, but the second it crosses that border, it officially becomes the Shinano River. This happens mostly because, historically, rivers were simply named after the provinces they flowed through. So while the names highlight two distinct regional histories, it is, for sure, one continuous, unbroken flow of water. And today, that single continuous flow, whether you're calling it Chikuma or Shinano, is an absolute powerhouse for modern Japan. Its waters are carefully managed by hydroelectric dams that literally keep the lights on for homes and industries. Its massive network of irrigation canals acts like a vascular system, pumping life straight into the fields that grow those famous apples and peaches. But amidst all this modern utility, it remains a thriving, vibrant ecosystem. If you look closely, you'll see kingfishers diving like little blue arrows, graceful egrets stalking the shallows, and dragonflies hovering over waters just teeming with carp and sweetfish. Protecting this water really means protecting the entire web of life that depends on it. And finally, the journey reaches its geographical conclusion. After winding its way through mountains, valleys, and historical battlefields for 367 kilometers, the river slows down. The narrow mountain passes open up into broad, expansive plains. And right here, the fresh water that started as melting mountain snow finally mingles with the salt of the ocean as it empties out into the Sea of Japan. But what should you really take away from all this? It's realizing that the journey doesn't actually end here. That very same drop of water that started way up high on Mount Kobushi, the one now mixing with the sea, is soon going to evaporate back into the clouds. And those clouds will blow right back over the Japanese Alps and fall once again as winter snow. Come next spring, another tiny stream will begin to flow. It's an endless, beautiful cycle. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. When we stand and look at a river, are we watching water travel toward its final destination, or are we simply witnessing nature preparing to start the exact same masterpiece all over again?